The mics are hot, and so's the gossip. Let's get into it in 3. Welcome to In 3. I'm Danielle Graham.
And I'm Callie.
And look at us.
Look at us. We said we were going to change it up, and we did. For those of you who are listening and can't see us, we are not in cardigans today.
It's crazy.
We are in something different, almost, but very similar.
Yeah, we are aligned, but we are buttonless. Nary a button this week. And I'm very proud of us and this growth.
Honestly, it was really touch and go there. I was almost certainly going to wear a cardigan again today. And then I thought, no, we made a commitment and we're going to stick to it.
Well, if you had worn a cardigan, this actually leads into what I wanted to talk to you about. There's this new study that says friends who playfully insult each other are 300% more loyal and honest. So I love that dynamic in a friendship, as you know. If you had come in a cardigan, I would have shredded you.
I never would have heard the end of that one.
Never.
Oh my God.
Never. But I don't know that we do enough of that in our friendship. Do we do enough making fun of each other?
Jabbing?
Yes, I love a jab.
I know you do.
I do.
I don't know. I feel like we have our own way. I came also with the topic I wanted to discuss with you, which maybe falls in the same category of what we're talking about.
Okay.
And this is a thread we've seen over many weeks, and that is your hair always being the same.
Yeah. So you can make fun of me about that.
And I do.
Yeah.
And I do, playfully and lovingly.
Yes.
And I showed up today with my hair up. Excuse me. Have you ever worn your hair up?
No, never.
No,
I don't do well with my hair up. In fact, actually, at your holiday party, someone made a comment. One of our friends made a comment, as they do, as this gentle jabbing thing is very prevalent in our friendships, about the fact that my hair is always the same and never up. In that party at your home, I attempted to put my hair up with my hands. I pulled it back into a ponytail. Everyone's face, and they know who they are, and they're listening, went, oh, yeah, no.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's not for you. So I know it's not for me.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah, I love the idea of that center part slick back pony. That's what I attempted at your holiday party. And again, the horrified looks on our friends' faces told me everything I needed to know. It's not for me.
I feel like I distinctly remember a photo of you, possibly from the MMVAs one year, where your hair was up and you looked insanely stunning.
Really?
Am I right?
No, there was a year.
Yeah,
but it was
a
big pony extension.
Okay,
I think
it was I actually, that look stands out in my memory. I'm gonna when we do our photo album, we'll throw a photo up, because I was like, there's no one hotter on this planet than you on that day.
Thanks, girl.
But this leads into the topic I wanted to discuss with you, because basically, this is a case study for why you should never get your hair cut. And that is, have you seen Emerada?
No.
Okay, let me pull up a photo for you quickly.
No, did she change? She made a big... See, again, I don't need more evidence as to why we just stay in the lanes we're in, but I'll take it. Just gives me more ammo when people start making fun of me.
So Emerada,
yeah,
arguably one of the most beautiful people on the planet, a gorgeous beast, has been chronicling a disaster that took place at a hair salon.
Oh, no.
And whoever did this to Emerada, I'm certain, has lost their job and will never work again.
You know, this is an irrational fear of mine.
But
a hair salon disaster. This
is what they did to her.
Why would anyone do that to anyone?
And
let me see that. Is that just a bunch of...
Basically, the bang starts in the middle of her head, and they've given her a shag, which I think she asked for, but it's where they started the bang
is starting at the crown of her head.
It starts at the crown. And so basically, there's an entire, she just chronicles the whole thing on social media, and it essentially, I'm like, I understand now why you would be afraid to do this, because I have never seen anything so horrific.
No, on the most beautiful woman ever. Now, she can pull this off because she's got the greatest face.
The face and the body.
Could you imagine this on me? If I can't even wear a ponytail without our friends gasping anymore. Even a man was in the mix, and he was like, nope.
Right.
So there you go. So No, I couldn't. I do
No.
love a curtain bang every couple of years, and then I regret it. So this is just, no, I'm staying where I am. Although this is a little bit different today. I did my air wrap today instead of a usual wave. You can't see a difference.
Yeah, no, I totally
Huge
can.
difference.
Yeah,
See?
you're
Make
like a
fun of
whole
me.
different person.
I am a whole different person, and you came over in a big giant coat, as you always do, because you are you, and no matter the temperature, you're cold. And this is why
I walk 100 steps to get to your house, and I am wearing a full-on
snowmobile
fur
suit.
parka.
you are, and this is what friendship is.
Yeah.
Friendship is making fun of each other.
No, I love that.
And also, I love to do it in my marriage as well.
And also, when you ask like, why don't we do this more? It's also because I am extremely sensitive. But so I think everyone's like, can Callie handle this? Like, she's a little sensitive. But
I think you can.
from you, yeah, I
For
think
me, it's
we
okay.
can work on that muscle.
I will be gentle, but I'm going to keep going.
I love it.
With this. I don't think I'm that sensitive. I don't know. I just took a lot of public scrutiny for many years. Maybe that's why.
I think honestly, it is a muscle that you have to exercise and flex. And like, I am in therapy and we're working on it. I honestly feel like even the way that I've been engaging on social media with the trolls and stuff, like this is me honestly really trying hard to flex the muscle of like people, strangers especially, can say whatever they want about me and it means nothing.
Proud
and
of
I'm
you.
good.
This is exposure therapy.
It is.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to send you outside without a coat. That's your next exposure therapy.
I mean,
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Okay. I love the lineup of this week's show. So the big three, we've got Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell off the top.
I am so excited to talk about this. We knew this was coming.
We called it.
Yeah, we did.
We have video and photo proof and audio proof of that. Morgan Wallen, we're going a little bit country. On our second story. And then our third story is the Snow White movie and the box office and Rachel and everything else that's happened with that.
I've been so fascinated with that story for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And then we're going to close with, we have to talk about Chelsea Handler.
Right.
For so many reasons. She's got lots to promote. And my God, there are so many different controversial headlines. So I don't know where we're going to go with it, but let's see how it goes.
We're going to need a chunk of time for the back end of the show.
I agree.
Because Chelsea's given us a lot to talk about.
Yeah, as usual.
All right, let's get into it. Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember a few weeks ago, we were talking about Sydney Sweeney and the coziness with Glen Powell that you pointed out, specifically the Instagram photos of like the shoulder. She was on his shoulder, right?
That was
another guy?
a different co-star.
Oh, right. Sorry, that was a different co-star.
What we were talking about was her sort of go-to marketing strategy,
yes,
which has been since she was in a movie with Glen Powell when they were basically cosplaying being in love.
Totally.
While they were both simultaneously in relationships.
But you told me that day that she was engaged.
Yeah.
And I did not know that.
Uh-huh.
I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And now we're learning that engagement is over.
I did say that day that I think that they had postponed it.
Yes, you did.
So we kind of knew that they were going to postpone it. There has been so many rumblings about like trouble in paradise for that relationship, especially in like as it relates to how she behaves with her co-stars.
Right.
It's either like, wow, they either have like the most secure relationship ever and he really gets it, or like she's just not that into it and gets her kicks where she can with her co-stars. And now we have an allegedly called off engagement completely.
Yeah. Now, we learned about it late last week, but apparently they've quietly separated a little while ago.
Right.
And then.
Yeah.
So we were like, whoa, these two broke up. We shared that in the DMs. Then it's, whoa, she and Glen Powell are at a wedding together. Whoa, it's his sister's wedding.
Right. Again, a key detail here.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like anyone's wedding and it's like maybe a pal could come along. A date to a sibling's wedding is next level.
Especially when you're super famous.
Yeah. You know that all eyes are on you.
Yes.
You know that all eyes are on you in this relationship in the context of the breakup.
Right.
And then to see them together at a family wedding is just like, are they confirming this? Is this a hard launch?
It was a quick hard launch too, because it was literally 48 hours later.
Yeah.
And they were caught from all angles.
Yeah.
They're at the airport. People are sharing photos. And there was no way they were going to get through that wedding without some guest or some person working at that wedding tipping someone off.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of photos.
A lot of photos.
A lot of photo evidence.
Now, some people are saying that this is not a hard launch. They are not in a romance, that Sydney got close with Glenn's sister during the filming of Anyone But You. Is that what it's called? I feel like now we're all fucked up with titles.
No, it's called The End of Us.
It ends with us. It always comes back to that. Anyone But You. And so people are saying that Sydney and Leslie Powell are friends, and then that's why she was at the wedding, and that she actually came with a different person as her plus one. So there's a lot.
She was a guest of she was invited to the wedding?
They're saying
on her own?
Yeah, they're saying that Leslie invited Sydney because they're pals.
She wasn't a plus one of Glenn.
That's what there's. I mean, there's just so many conflicting stories.
Right.
I think it's like, again, we know that they know that we're watching them. So for her to show up at all is, I think, making a declaration. Makes me feel like there's more to the story and that they're not trying to hide it.
There's definitely more to the story. The chemistry is there. It's undeniable, right? I think so.
100%.
It felt very real and sparky and all of those things.
Yeah.
I also don't think let's play out the scenario where she is his plus one. You don't need a plus one to your sister's wedding. This is your family, and you are not amongst strangers.
No, you're
not
good.
at table 10 with a bunch of people you don't know. You are very well assimilated.
100%.
You are comfortable. You don't need a wing person. You don't need anyone to talk to.
Right.
You are covered on all bases.
Yes.
So if that's the case, then he didn't need a plus one.
They're a hot couple if it is true.
They're a super hot couple.
And I'm happy for her. She, in her engagement, in her relationship that just allegedly ended, they've been together since prior to her even becoming famous, right? They've been together since before like the Euphoria before the first season of White Lotus. And she was in her early 20s and he's now in his 40s. I feel as though that was a mismatch. I think that was like an early stage relationship for her. I think she's outgrown it. And I think Glenn is a great option.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I think something happened. A spark was sparking on the set of that movie in Australia.
Totally.
Because they shot it in 2023. He had a girlfriend at the time.
Right.
They broke up.
Yeah.
She was a model. They broke up during the filming of that movie. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's give that a couple of years. In my mind, this is how it played out. They meet on the set. There's something happening. They're vibing. He's got a girlfriend. He calls it because it's a little bit easier to untangle a girlfriend than it is to untangle a life with a fiance.
Right.
I'm assuming.
Totally.
This is just what my storytelling in my mind is.
No, I like it. Let's go with this
So
version.
then she needs some time to figure some things out because she's been with this person, as you said, since before she was famous. So, there's a lot of history there. And then it just takes a little while to extricate yourself from a relationship like that. And here we are 2 years later and they're at a wedding together. I'm telling you, this was a long game in my mind.
100%.
Yeah. And it was undeniable. So maybe the whole time it was like, I just,
it was always you.
It was always you. Maybe that's what the next one should be called.
I love it.
Although don't make another one of these movies. I really didn't like this movie.
I really didn't like this movie either, but I don't know. I'm so into them as a couple that I think I would see another one.
Okay.
And it did well at the box office, as we've spoken about.
Yeah. And,
because of their chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also they're both at these great points in their career.
Totally. It's very well matched.
Good for both of them in the celebrity career sphere. Let's get into the Morgan Wallen of it all.
Oy. Oy vey.
I know. I didn't see this happening for us, this Morgan Wallen on our show. I know one Morgan Wallen song.
Okay. Which one? I don't know
I
any.
Had Some Help. That one with Post Malone. I'm not going to say
Do I know
I'm
it?
not going to do that.
Wait,
yes, you
maybe.
do. I had some help.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is my only other experience with Morgan Wallen. I went to a bachelorette party in Nashville last year.
Okay.
And I went to Morgan Wallen's bar. It is 6 stories of bar.
Wow.
6 stories.
Do we need that many stories of bar?
mean, it was such a fun time.
Was it?
Like, it was the most fun bar I've probably ever been in. Each story had its own vibe.
So
I
remember
music.
you guys telling me about this.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I went on another floor and it was kind of like early 2000s pop and hip hop. Anyway,
okay.
So much fun.
Okay, Morgan Wallen.
That's the end of my Morgan Wallen knowledge.
I feel like if he knows anything, it's how to have a good time, almost like to his detriment. It sounds like he's a party boy.
Right.
Sounds like he knows how to let loose.
Right.
And it sounds like he knows how to flirt with a lady.
Yep.
So
What he doesn't know how to do, though, is exit gracefully.
right. So we're talking about Morgan Wallen appearing on SNL this weekend.
Yes.
He did his musical performances, and at the end, you know, all the cast sort of congregates on stage. They do a big farewell. They
Credits
all hug
are
each other. Credits are rolling. The music is going, and everyone's hugging and chatting and doing like a post-mortem moment.
Yeah. High fives.
Out-
Loves.
All you see is Morgan Wallen turning to Mikey,
Yeah.
who was the host, giving her a hug. And then he doesn't exit through like stage left. He exit forward towards the audience.
Through the aisle.
And you watch him. And he actually crosses the camera, like he passes,
Yeah,
walks
like-
past the camera.
He's big in the shot
And
because he's
exits.
right at the front of the camera. And
Right.
he leaves through the aisle of the audience and then I
have
guess just
never.
out into the street.
I guess. It sounds like, you know, he hailed a cab and went straight to his jet, because the next thing we heard from him was an Instagram post with his
Yes.
private jet and a caption that said, "Get me to God's country."
Right.
Okay.
So it sounded like he wanted to get out of New York.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are saying his exit was tasteless and classless, and that's just not how things go, especially after a big live show like that.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of celebration and congratulations and great jobs and all the things we talked about, and this man just like pieced out.
He pieced.
And, you know, some of the cast and other people are saying like, did he just... Did he like miss the assignment? Did
Right.
something happen?
Yes.
Did he have a terrible time?
Yeah, Keenan Thompson's quotes about this are my absolute favorite. Like, I actually laughed out loud reading them. First he said, like, I don't know if he had to go to the potty or something, like if he just really had to go to the bathroom, and the only one he could think of was like in the lobby. So he like crossed stage, you know, forward and left through the front door to get to the bathroom. The other thing he said is like, I don't know what's going on with that guy, but he seems like a bit complicated. Like, and he does. So
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Morgan Wallen except that he's a bit of a womanizer. I know that he and Kristen Cavallari dated briefly, and she talks about his skills in the bedroom.
Yep.
Then when I started reading into it, because of this story and him being just such a jerk in this context, I was like, oh no, this man has been problematic for years. I just don't look at country stuff.
Okay, but there are people who said, or they learned from Morgan Wallen's team, that he wasn't being rude. He didn't just like vanish the second. He didn't even wait for like the credits to finish. He didn't vanish the second he was done. It was throughout the week and the rehearsals and the blocking, they call it, which is where you find your places on a stage. This is the way he came in and out. He came in through the aisle and onto the stage, and came out and left stage through aisle. This is the only path he learned in his rehearsal time at SNL.
Let's just suspend that for one moment and just consider like he's a man that knows a stage. Like, it's not like
Very
he's never
true.
been on a stage before. He doesn't know how this works. Like, he's
Very
not
true.
an amateur. He lives on a stage. Anyone, and I don't live on a stage, but I know there's like backstage, and I know that usually that's where the cast and like people who are involved, you know, in the performance go.
Right.
And he would literally have been walking towards the audience. And like, yes, certainly there are some like well-known faces in there, but there's also general public.
Major general public.
Yeah, so it's like, it's so strange. And it's like, okay, sure, you could say he doesn't have a problem and he wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but I don't know, in the context of this, it's just like, even if you had never watched an episode of SNL, and he's appeared on SNL before, but even if you'd never seen an episode and everyone else is embracing and having a moment, and you're
a guest.
And you're a guest.
In their
exactly. Home. And we've talked about like the work that goes into SNL and how hard these guys work every week, the cast and the crew, to make this show happen. And it is extremely disrespectful to do it that way. It's so crazy.
It was a little unhinged.
It is a little unhinged. Like, it just makes zero sense. And I get that his team is trying to do damage control. It'd be probably better if he released a statement that was like, I'm so sorry, but I don't think that's really his style.
Or I really did have to use the bathroom.
Yeah. we know he didn't have to catch a flight because he was flying private.
Good
that's
point.
already out of the question. So it's just like really there are limited excuses for this, in my opinion.
You're right. But it did get me thinking about my preferred party exit. And
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I love a vanishing act.
We love an Irish exit.
I love a Houdini.
Yeah.
I do it when we're hosting. I do it at the cottage all the time. If everyone's up or playing games or we're at a campfire.
Yeah.
If I go inside, I'm like, oh, I have to pee. And then I'm in there. I'm like, you know what?
I'm just going to brush my teeth.
You know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I don't say anything to anybody. And I just go to bed and I wake up in the morning and everyone's like, did you just vanish? Yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. That is so fair.
Because sometimes I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of a big goodbye. Like, and then it's like, no, have a stay. No, I just want to go.
Yeah.
When I want to go, I want to go.
Right.
And I feel like in that, I don't know, like maybe he was just like, I want to go now. I just want to go now.
Yes.
I want to go.
However, okay. Yes. 100%. We've all been guilty of the Irish exit, of just like bailing hard and not wanting to do the goodbyes. Because sometimes those can also be, first of all, they can be awkward. They can linger.
45
You
minutes
can get
goodbye.
with our group, you can get sucked back in real easy.
Yeah.
Like it's really, it's touch and go in terms of like, are you actually going to extract yourself? So I
Right.
get that. But in a professional context, Danielle, I'm certain that you wouldn't just like get up out of your seat while everyone else was like doing
You're right.
an important mingle and like walking
No, I wouldn't.
in the direction that's like not even the right way. Like
And just like, no, I wouldn't.
that's actually so funny.
I do love how you wrap up an event, though. Callie loves to call the end of it before we've even arrived. Invitation to the holiday party was like, this, I want to have you here. I'm going to host you. Food on food and drinks and bartenders and chefs and everything. You got to go by 10.
Yeah, no, like hard
out.
Yeah,
at 10.
because I don't want to do the awkward thing. I want everyone to know what the deal is.
Yes.
So that I don't have to be like, hey, awkward, sorry. Like, are we,
Right.
do you mind? No. We know what the exit is. And that makes everyone just like, it's almost like gives you permission to just send it for the time you have together, Because
That's right.
that 10 p.m. curfew is coming up. And Callie's going to be, cleaning up and kind of sweeping around your feet.
Right.
So
I've seen it where you've actually looked at your phone and been like, 10 minutes. Some of you are like, 10 minutes.
yeah,
Everybody-
sorry guys, it's the
Like,
countdown.
Like I do with my kids. 10 minutes to bed. And,
I mean,
and everybody adheres to it. So
it's effective.
We all have the ways in which we want to wrap things up. Morgan Wallens is just really rude and abrupt.
Danielle, that's so funny. I love it. Well, Morgan Wallen is not, he's no stranger to controversy anyways. He has been arrested for throwing chairs off balconies. His first appearance was canceled on SNL because he was partying with college women during COVID.
Oh.
And that got out. So he got canceled for that. Then he threw a chair off a balcony. What else has he done? He had a racial slur.
Oh boy.
This man, yeah, like the general sentiment, I think, is like,
Problematic.
why
Right.
are we even allowing him on SNL? Why do we care?
I doubt he'll be back.
I mean, or SNL also just knows that in this case, they don't mind having people that are making headlines for the wrong reason.
True though, because we haven't talked about SNL at all except for the big SNL 50. We've not talked about guests, weekend happenings, really nothing. This is kind of the first one that's, given us something to talk about.
That's true.
Anyway.
And speaking of all press is good press, that leads us into the Snow White controversy.
Wowza.
Yeah. Because I think, like, generally speaking in Hollywood, there is this perception of like all headlines are wins for us.
For sure.
And in this case, I think this is like a really interesting case study of like, that's not always true. And basically the star of the show, the Snow White, Rachel Zegler, has completely tanked this movie based on making headlines for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. The movie performed really poorly opening weekend, and then again did not do very well this past weekend. It's right now, what are the numbers on this? It's bad. It's not great for Disney at all.
Well, the movie cost over $400 million to make, and it sounds like
Oh, they'll be struggled to make 143 million. So like we are
Yikes.
way, way, way in the red on this one.
It's not only like one of the worst debuts of a Disney movie of all time, it's also one of the lowest rated blockbusters in history.
Yeah.
Okay, like that is, I feel like that's not the award we want to win. It has 1.5 out of 10 on IMDb rating.
Oh boy.
People hate this movie.
But why?
It's like a musical, and from what I understand, I haven't seen it, but from what I understand, they're not using a lot of the original music from the original Disney classic.
Right. And the songs that have the most memory attached to them.
Yeah.
The big Snow White songs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the story is very changed, and they took a very strange approach to the plot of the movie.
Right.
Because in Rachel's words, she felt like it was a archaic kind of plot line. Yep. Anyway, she just like basically went in on how dated it was and how irrelevant the storyline was and how much they had to change it in order to make it kind of like what people are saying woke. So it's a woke Disney movie, and I don't know that there's major interest in that. I do think there's major interest in people watching remakes of classics, and having that classic element feel really emotionally connected. You know, these are movies that we all grew up with.
Sure.
And I think I understand, you know, wanting to change certain things to update it, but I think completely departing from the original concept and the original meaning doesn't always play in your favor.
It doesn't. But I don't know I don't think that's Rachel's to wear. I think she can wear some of the demise of this movie. Mm-hmm. I think the choice to update, and I say that with quotes, to update the story, that was a choice from the studio to do that. How she messaged it is absolutely on her, because it could have, instead of saying, you know, the old prince was a stalker and a creep and it was weird, you could have said, and again, language, especially on a press tour, when you are the helm of this Disney movie. Yeah. You know, we really wanted to revisit this character and show her in a different light and show her as a strong woman, and she's the focus, not the prince. You know, that's a way you could message it, as opposed to speaking poorly on a story that is beloved from 1937, that people are attached to. You know, that I think started things off on a really poor note for her.
Totally.
The way she used the words to describe the old version of the movie.
And see, the way you're talking is someone who's been media trained.
Right.
And I think maybe big studios shouldn't take for granted that these kids, and she has not been in the game that long.
True.
She probably should have been media trained. And I know that you had to go through media training in your early stage of your career.
I sure did, because I didn't know you can't say really what you want to say sometimes. Right. I was new to the game. I was new on television. I had interviewed Avril Lavigne, and a national newspaper reporter was interviewing me because I was this new kid on this TV show. Right. And they said, have you met anybody, you know, not nice? And I said, yeah, Avril Lavigne had a nasty edge to her. And I'll never forget those words, because they were in print all over the place. Oops. And I was quickly hauled in to some media training. Because again, I was a 21-year-old kid, no experience. Nobody told me to put a filter on it. Nobody said massage the language a little bit or just dodge that question. Yeah. So, yeah. But she's been in a little bit longer than I was to know you can't just go trashing Walt Disney.
Well, why are you trashing your own movie?
True.
And also associating it. Like, I'm all for free speech, and I'm all for people to have like whatever perspective they choose. Yeah. You know, within the bounds of not being hateful. And when they released the trailer for Snow White, and she was sort of engaging with fans on, I think, Twitter, she was like, you know, thanks for watching, and remember, free Palestine. Mm-hmm. It's like, it doesn't matter what my personal beliefs are. It doesn't matter. The point is, why are you dragging politics that are extremely polarizing into any discussion about non-political entertainment that you're trying to promote and make successful?
Right.
So I do feel like she can take some of the blame for that.
Yep.
You know, the studio did call her and begged her to take it down, and she refused, to the point where Mark Platt, who was one of the producers, had to fly to speak with her in person and plead with her and explain to her why this was irresponsible for the movie itself and for the success of it. And, you know, in thinking about like, of course we don't want to censor people, and we live in an era where, you know, we are entitled to free speech, and there are so many ways we can communicate our beliefs and all of that. And in the context of being a leader, like having led a team when I had my physical wellness studio, Bolo, and I had to go through COVID or the early stages of COVID as a business owner.
Right.
And it was such a tough time because, you know, again, I really believe in everyone expressing themselves as they would like. And I normally would never, ever tell anyone what to post. But it was a really difficult moment because what you posted socially was heavily reflective of the business at that time. And people were like looking to us as like, you know, leaders in the wellness space and people that could keep people safe. And it doesn't matter what we know now. If we had known then what we know now, none of it would have happened. But, you know, I did have to put some like censorship on my team. Or at least ask for it, even though that was a really uncomfortable thing to do, but it was like what was best for the business.
Right.
And most people like really understood that. It was like, okay, yeah, right, of course. Like my personal beliefs in this moment are not as important as, and I can also express those in different ways to my close family and friends in this moment. And then later when it's more appropriate and when it has less impact on the business, I'll share my feelings.
Yep.
And that's all good. What Rachel did here was extremely self-centered, immature, and narcissistic. And I think that she can take some of the blame for things going wrong. And let's not forget that her co-star, Gal Gadot, is Israeli.
Right.
And again, everyone is entitled to their own opinions. But when you have to stand next to your co-star and come with a united front as the power female leads of this important Disney movie, and you've now just sort of like put a line in the sand saying that you guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum as it relates to this political issue, it's not a nice thing to do. It wasn't respectful.
No, it wasn't. But I think you're right in making those choices that she made that weren't good for the business. And let's be honest, that is a big business.
Yeah.
You are the poster person for this big Disney remake.
Yeah.
The intention with everything should have been, how best can I support this thing to be successful?
Yes.
And because it did get off to a bit of a rocky start too.
Yeah.
With the choice to cast or to create AI dwarves as opposed to using real actors. And Peter Dinklage had a lot to say about that.
100%.
So it was already a little bit like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Could have used your celebrity and your power and your marqueeness in this role to elevate and promote, and ultimately did herself a huge disservice because now you're right, you're not bankable at this point. You're actually
that's the thing.
You've created a huge loss for this studio.
You're a huge liability now. Like if you're a movie producer, are you running to cast Rachel Zegler? I think she's seen her last moments in Hollywood. I really do. And I think she's going to have to do a lot of goodwill. And I don't know if she's capable of it at this point in her life. Yeah. I think maybe we'll see her in 10 years when she's matured a little bit, coming back and being like, oh my God, oops. Right. Sorry, guys. I had no frontal lobe. Right. And it's more well-formed. And now I can I just think she's going to have to do a lot of damage control. She's going to have to do a lot of self-reflection. Yeah. And some of that might not be easy. It isn't sometimes to confront yourself, right?
No, it's not. It's not. And again, there have been people who have been handed projects that weren't great.
Yeah.
But handled them in the way that you're supposed to handle them as a person who is an actor.
Yeah.
You know, so some of this is the fact that the material and the vision for this, not great.
Yeah.
But how she handled it, really not great.
Yeah. To a degree, the sort of the way that this press tour has bombed, it reminds me a little bit of It Ends With Us with the Blake Lively, and how just sort of her, let's take the legal stuff out of it, but just her unlikability and her edge and her sort of narcissistic moments where she's just going off on tangents, talking about herself, talking about her brand, talking about and how that really did impact the box office, and then the conflict between the two main characters. Like, this is giving the Gen Z version of It Ends With Us, and this is just like, why aren't the movie companies and these production companies giving more media training? Because we've seen, you know, I think in the case of like Wicked with Ariana and Cynthia Erivo, like that press tour went so well.
I was just thinking that A++++.
That went so well that they went to the Oscars. Like,
yes.
I'm not even sure that without the finger holding and all of those amazing moments with them, that they would have gone as far as they did. Like,
Right.
I actually think that
press tour helped so much.
and it really can. And it's just proof of like, you can either take it to the next level in a good way, or you can absolutely tank your career.
You're
and
right.
I think like, maybe as we see more of these examples, maybe production teams will be like a little bit quicker to offer some support for these stars who don't know how to handle it.
Or they're going to have to rewrite the Bible on when we sign a talent to a project. This is how the rollout works in the press tour.
Yeah.
And these are the steps we have to go through to ensure we don't have another example of this disastrous press tour. Maybe they need to reformulate the terms and conditions of an actor signing on to a movie and the ensuing press tour.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
We have to get to, and we have to talk about Chelsea Handler.
Yes. Another person who makes headlines for controversial things, but in her case, she's not doing a Disney movie. So she can say whatever she wants about whatever. And it's like, take her or leave her. This is who she is. And the headlines range from
God.
I gave people drugs at the Oscars.
Do we know what those drugs were?
It sounds like she's a big fan of the microdose.
Of the LSD type.
Yeah.
Acid.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
But you know who else does that is Diplo.
Oh.
Diplo famously was like microdosing LSD when he was on the air with Andy and Anderson on New Year's Eve. And that kind of made headlines where people were like, can you microdose LSD? Well, I guess you can.
I guess you can.
Like,
not recommending that. Not recommending it.
Totally. I've never done any hard drug. Like, basically, you know, matcha is as wild as I get. But and as someone who has had to stop drinking in recent years, like due to health issues, and I also can't consume cannabis because it doesn't agree with me.
Right.
I have been known to get into a tiny microdose of mushrooms.
Right.
So I'm into a microdose. Now, LSD feels a bit extreme. And also passing it out at an Oscars party, while I feel like that's entertaining in like to think about, I feel like a lot could go wrong there.
Yeah. And she also, talk about a lot can go wrong. So every year on her birthday, she skis in a bikini with a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And in this case, talked about doing it while on LSD, a microdose of LSD. I'm like, I don't know. There was a time for me, and it was probably Chelsea Lately era. I remember that talk show she had.
Yes. I feel like she was one of the first and the best to do it.
Yeah. And I found her relatable. Now, we are not the same age at all, but she was living a fun, kind of carefree life. And I was living a fun and carefree life and would like, you know, love to drink on the weekends and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I read her books at the time. I think I read the Are You There Vodka? It's Me, Chelsea, or Chelsea, Bang, Bang. I read a few of them and I actually really enjoyed them. But where I find myself now is I am not relating in any way, shape, or form to Chelsea Handler.
Okay.
I can have a glass of Prosecco and I'm out for like 2 days. So I want to know how at 50 you're partying.
Right.
And not literally scraping yourself off the floor the next day.
Yeah.
How are you drinking? And she talks a lot about drinking.
Yeah.
How are you drinking to that degree and dosing to that degree and still upright? Because as we all know, it gets so much harder as you get older.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like hangovers can last months for me.
Oh my God.
Literally.
So I don't feel like that thing about Chelsea anymore.
That's so
I just feel like I don't really feel related. I don't find her relatable anymore. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I enjoy her, but I don't find her relatable.
Yeah, I enjoy her also. I was going to say I actually kind of do relate to her in some ways, not with the LSD, because that's like, but I don't know, maybe for my 50th, I'll drop LSD. I don't know.
In a bikini while skiing? Never. Too cold.
Way too cold. What I love about Chelsea is like, she'll say the things that most people won't say. So in this press tour, and I was going to say like the headlines that range from, like her giving LSD out to celebrities at the Oscars to, her talking about her body image and having been obsessive compulsive about weighing herself in her 20s and her evolution from there. And then also obviously talking about her choice to not have kids.
Right.
And in some of those ways, I'm like, Chelsea's a real one.
Okay.
Like I really do appreciate when someone, gives some insight into how difficult it is for all of us to be women and to try to meet the standards of beauty. And she talks about in her 20s weighing herself 15 times a day and being completely obsessed with her body. And now being more in a place where, of course, she's, when she puts on a bathing suit, there's a moment where she's like, do I like this? Do I like how I look? And then she's able to really put things in perspective.
Yeah.
And remember that life is worth living, and like think about all the wasted time and hours that she spent, feeling like she wasn't enough, or that she wasn't skinny enough, or that she didn't like how she looked. And I love that. And I can relate to that.
Yeah, that is relatable. 10 points for relatability on that.
Yeah. And then when she talks about not having kids, and this is always a topic that comes up for her, where people are like, so you chose not to have kids. She's like, I'm 50. And
that is crazy that still is.
Totally.
Anyway.
And I am childless and don't intend on having kids. But I still feel extremely maternal, which is kind of a weird oxymoron. And Chelsea talks about the same thing. She says, I actually mother a lot of people. Well, she says that kind of tongue in cheek. Like she's like, I have a lot of kids in my life. Okay. But she's like, I love being an aunt. I love that I have more bandwidth from not having kids that I can spend with my friends' kids and with my siblings' kids. And it doesn't make me feel like less maternal or like I can't take care of people. Like I take care of people all the time, and I derive so much joy from that. And like for me, I love that, and that's exactly how I feel. I could cry.
Yeah, you are a big auntie vibes.
I love that role in my life. Like that plays a huge part of like the parts of my life that make me happy and fulfill me. Like I don't feel childless, actually. Like I know obviously I'm not a parent and there's many differences, but I don't feel childless. I feel full of children and of young people in my life that I feel like I want to have an impact on and mentor and share moments with, and I derive so much joy from that. So I love when she talks about that.
I love that. And I love that you shared that. And it is so true, because you make such an intentional effort to spend time with my kids, with our other friends' kids. I know you do it with your siblings' kids. Like you really do put the time in, and like you've come to B's boxing class, and holidays are on, birthdays are always a thing from Annie Callie. Like you really do. And I know that brings you a lot of joy. And I love that you shared that. And I love that you that Chelsea has illuminated that for other people and put that on a wider stage for other people who've chosen not to have children, to be like, hey, listen, still lots of love and childrenness in our lives.
Yeah.
And that she shared it in a way that feels really good, and that you feel seen in that.
Now, another thing that's in the headlines about Chelsea is the dissolution of her relationship with Jennifer Aniston.
Okay. So this was a pretty fast and furious friendship.
Yeah.
And they kind of hit it off quickly, and we saw them out a lot of places together, and it looked like a very tight friendship. And we know what that looks like. Sometimes later in life, you find your friends quickly because you're like, I get it. We align. We have the same interests, values, circles, whatever.
Totally.
And you can click quickly. So that quickness isn't a thing for me, I don't think. But then it just has kind of evaporated. It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it was, I don't know if it was an evaporation. It sounds like it was it was like a conscious decision on Jen Aniston's part, it sounds like. To distance from Chelsea. What I've read is that Jen really makes a conscious effort to be private.
Right.
And we talked about that last week in context of her romantic relationships and stuff. And Chelsea is very much out there. She's loud in all areas of her life. And it sounds like maybe Chelsea crossed a couple boundaries in terms of how she talks about Jen in the press.
Yeah.
Now, you and I talk a lot about in our friendship that like something that's really important to us and that we both really embody is like we're each other's dragons,
Yes.
to use language from Blake. I think what may have happened here is like Chelsea was dragoning for Jen
Out there,
you know, being her biggest advocate.
right?
And accidentally said things that were like maybe a little bit out of bounds. But I do feel like maybe her intentions were good.
right.
So she was friends with Jen in like it sounds like they became friends around 2009. And at that time it was Brad and Ange out on the red carpet together all the time.
Right.
And Chelsea went out there and said something like, those idiots found each other or something like that. Right. And I can totally see
that.
how if it's like my bestie,
Right.
her ex-husband who dumped her for Angelina Jolie is
Right.
out there looking like an idiot.
Right.
And I'm just going to say that.
I'm going to call it what it is. Idiot.
Idiot.
Idiot behavior from idiots.
Exactly. And so I almost feel badly for Chelsea because I think, again, I do think she was good intentioned.
The intention was good.
But as we know, it's not always about intention. It's about impact. So unfortunately, it sounds like that really cost her relationship. And she just is like not a censored person. She's just loud and out
Right.
there and not thinking, not filtering, not thinking before she speaks. And I think she just put her foot in her mouth and that Jen thought she was a liability.
Well, because also let's play out that headline. Jen Aniston bestie says Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are idiots.
Right.
So
Not
of course
great.
she's going to get tied into it. So
Yeah.
from Jen's perspective, I could see be like, dang,
Did you have to?
I really like you. Did you have to?
Yeah.
But
And it sounds like Justin Theroux, her second husband,
Right.
didn't like Chelsea. And maybe it was for similar reasons. I mean, she
Well-
probably is pretty polarizing.
I think she is. And I read a little excerpt from the new book that's coming out. She's got
Yeah.
a new book and a new Netflix series.
Yeah.
And she talked about how she went to an event with Jane Fonda and then Jane Fonda emailed her and was like, I need you to come over here. We need to talk. And she knew she was in trouble with Jane
Right.
Fonda. And Jane Fonda called her out. She's like, you came in like a dark cloud. I don't know what drugs you were on. I don't know what happened. But you were rude and you were unpleasant and you made people uncomfortable. And so she said she had to go back and self-reflect and also was like dying of humiliation.
Can you imagine? Jane
No,
Fonda calls you in.
but
Oof.
also called it true sisterhood, where a friend tells
Agreed.
you about yourself that you need to hear.
You might want to check that. Yeah.
If that's the case, then yeah, it's possible she could have offended Justin Theroux and or other people, because you're right. Her type of personality is not one that's passive or palatable to everybody.
Right.
It is very polarizing, to use your words.
Yeah.
The most polarizing thing she said that I read recently, she said she sleeps with a bra on every night and does
What?
it because that's how you keep your boobs perky. And I'm sorry, Chelsea Handler, I cannot agree with this.
No.
This is a big hard no. The
So
minute
she's
we're
an
done,
absolute monster then.
she's a psychopath. Like, this is psychotic
have
behavior.
Never in my life heard that.
This bra comes off the minute you leave this house.
Oh my God. I mean, I just had to really work myself up to put on a bra to come here.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, we are braless and lawless on this show. We are not about sleeping in a bra.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy behavior.
That's crazy behavior.
Yeah, no, I can't stand behind that.
No, I
I
can't.
can stand behind a lot of things that Chelsea said today. That, I'm sorry, is not one of them.
I actually want to know from our wonderful listeners, does anybody sleep with a bra on?
And socks is a question.
No. You
No,
gotta let them feet
ew.
breathe.
I cannot.
No.
Absolutely not. I need to breathe. I need to breathe here. I need to breathe here. I need to breathe here. And I'm pointing to all the bits you just thought I was.
That's right. But
So,
she's
like,
also in a sauna bed while doing it.
I do wear socks in the sauna bed, but I take them off before I go to bed.
Wait, you don't sleep in the sauna bed?
No.
I thought you slept in
Oh
it.
my God,
It's
that
called
would
a
be
sauna
wild.
bed.
No, you lie in a bed and it's almost like a sleeping bag. You
Okay.
get into it and it's like infrared heat, but that you have to limit your time. It's like, it's like 100 degrees in
You're
there.
like roasting a chicken in there.
Yeah. I'm like a little rotisserie chicken.
I legit thought
That
you
is
slept
so
in a
funny.
sauna bed.
No.
Oh, I don't know these
No.
things.
No, I'll show you. But
Okay.
no, that would be,
That would
I mean,
unhealthy.
that sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like a challenge if I've ever heard one.
No.
I
No.
might just do that.
Just do your dip in then.
Before we wrap up our convo, last week we talked about Gwyneth and I having our dessert in common.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about Oreos being my favorite treat.
You angel
And
on earth.
After we spoke, you told me that you love a blonde Oreo,
But of course.
which is something I've never had.
She golden.
So I was thinking, I'll have a blonde. You have an OG.
I love that you're calling them blonde.
Blonde and brunette.
Okay, that's us.
Yeah, so you have a brunetti and I'll have a blondie.
I'll happily take the
And
double
we can
stuffy.
cheers.
Cheers. Did you bring us a Saturday cig too?
Next time.
You got to listen to
Next
last
time.
week's episode for that.
Yeah,
to
if
make
you
sense.
missed that. Okay.
That's good.
Interesting. It's kind of like it tastes a bit like a graham cracker, this one.
You know what I want to do with this?
What?
I want that Ninja Creamy. Have you seen the Ninja Creamy, the ice cream machine for home?
Yes.
And they have the one that now is the Ninja soft serve machine.
Ooh.
Yeah, I want a Ninja Creamy because I want to make my own ice cream at home
Oreo.
with and I want to do that for us in the neighborhood this summer.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I want to do
Okay,
that.
wow.
What's up, Ninja?
I mean, we're always the popular kind of
We are.
corner of the block, but if you did that, we would be, I mean, actually might not work in your favor because we might not ever be able to get rid of people.
Right.
Which is
Unless we get your timer on.
hard. Well, that's the thing. Everyone's got to go by 4 p.m.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
It's time to go. And it is time to go and say goodbye.
It
We
is.
love you. And thank you for listening. And all the love and all the feedback and the ratings and the stars.
Yes, we
and
love
the,
you.
And the subscribing. Thank you so much.
And can't wait to do this again next
Next week. See you then.
soon. Bye.
Bye. Mwah.